cables everywhere.
Aloha snack bar.
Pardon me a moment, guys, while I clean up my disgusting work here. This looks a lot like this. And this is much cleaner than it was 10 minutes ago. I spent largely the last month in bed, more or less. So this place is a disaster. Ah, throwing stuff around. Chainsaw blade. It's amazing what you find when you clean up. I've been looking for that. Forged this out of a chainsaw chain. One day, I'll finish it. Oh, what am I doing here? I should go somewhere where I won't lose them. Right there. Pardon the noise, I have the forge running to warm it up a little bit in here. It's currently 30 where I'm at. That'd be -1 for you Canadians and other people. Hey look, a copper ring that I made. I'm looking for that too. Wedge for an axe. Some ironwood. Some G10 I've been looking for. Blue. Dental pick I've been looking for. It's incredible what happens when clean up. Let's see here. Pardon me a moment while I go into some settings. Alright. Hey, how's it going? Oops. Hold on a moment. Uh-oh. Got things all over my screen. Huh, my app is going crazy. How's it going? Try to figure out how to get this out of here. Dun, dun, dun. Thanks, man. It's good to be here. In a second here, I'll turn this forge off so it's a little quieter. What the hell? I have this pop-up bubble on my screen and I cannot make it go away. Run in and grab a Sharpie. Terrible. Be right back. Dun dun dun! Sharpie! Alright. Now that's a little less horrifyingly cold in here. Hopefully my water won't freeze. Dun dun dun! I've got to figure out how to turn this off. I can only see half of what you're chatting. Hold on 1 second. I have this stupid pop-up screen that will not let me make it go away. Hey, there it goes. All right. So So the forge wasn't really that loud? Because if not, I might turn it back on because it's cold. Everything in here is cold. It's the first time I've been out here since doing the other hatchet, as a matter of fact. Dun, dun, dun. So we'll give it a few minutes while I arrange here and let a few more people join. Actually, I'm going to turn that back on for a minute. Let it warm up in here. The wonders of being in the frozen north, which I'm actually quite enjoying it, because for the last, I don't know, 8 years or so, I've spent all of my winters either in Florida or Louisiana, and honestly, it's a bit too warm down there for my taste in the winter. We had one year, where, a couple years back, Christmas Day, I was in Louisiana. It was 85 degrees on Christmas. Yes, I'm still in PA for the time being. I'm going to be here for the rest of the winter time. I'm still waiting for my applications for various new shows to come in. I dumped my entire Ren Fair schedule, everything except for West Virginia last year because my mom got sick. She got cancer, so I wanted to be as close as I could to help her out. She's much better now, and now I have to reapply for all the shows that I want to do. You basically have to start over from scratch if you dump shows. So I've dumped everything except one, so I have nothing except one. Last year I did one Ren Fair, that was it. I did West Virginia. So hopefully I'll have a few new ones coming up. But more or less I'll be bouncing back and forth between here until things settle out, you know, with Mom, my baby brother, and everybody's cool. And then I'll be back out west. Hopefully opening a more permanent shop. While I enjoy traveling, it does make my life tedious sometimes. For example, the little shop space I have set up here in my mom's garage, anywhere I want to go and work, I have to unpack everything I have from my truck, my trailer, and all of that stuff, set it all up. And then when I need to leave here to go to a show or go to another spot somewhere where I may be gone for a month or two, I need to be able to work during the week. So I have to pack up all of my stuff, all of my machinery, all of my tools, anvils, everything, and take them with me. So it'd be nice to have a more permanent shop to work out of. Let's see. For those of you just joining us, still getting in the process, cleaning up a little bit and finding all my stuff. Jar of change, which for some reason is on my workbench. Gloves, Scotch Brite. Oh look, iPod. I've even got some trees in here with me. Let's see, where's my tree? That is a good chunk of a tree. I've got more of it sitting in the corner that a friend of mine gave me to make handles and stuff out of. Let's see. Nice. You guys got a hammering going on? Or classes or something? Because I'm always good. I'm always down to travel to a good blacksmith event. Oh, actually, that's the other one I did. I didn't dump everything. Last year I was the feature demonstrator for the Louisiana Metalsmith Association's yearly conference, which was a blast. As a matter of fact, I demonstrated making one of these, although I didn't get all the way through it because it took more time than I expected. It always takes about 10 or 15 times longer to do something when you are demonstrating it and trying to explain it step by step as you go. Typically, I try to pick a project that's like a half an hour in length, right? Something that would take me a half an hour to sit down and just go at it and make, and then do that as a demonstration. That usually turns out being an hour and a half to 2 hours, something that's a half an hour project. Man, look at all this cool stuff I'm finding. That is a copper nugget, fresh out of the ground. Copper is naturally found in two forms, ore and nuggets. That's a nugget. A friend of mine gave me that last year. What do I have up here? Some mokame. All manner of... Hey, there's a sword guard I've been forging. Well, I actually forged this like 2 years ago. I need to finish forging it and put it on the sword that it belongs on, which I just set over on my anvil. I come in and my freaking bench is stacked with swords in various degrees of being done or not done. Hey! It's my cold chisel that I've been looking for. My drill I've been looking for. And a bone. Horse bone. What's that? Clay. Very dirty clay. A lot of times when I want to test Damascus patterns, I'll take various different colors of clay. I don't know if you can see this or not. And I'll layer them up just like a Damascus billet. Take my hammer and smash them out, and flip them, and fold them, and manipulate them. And then you can actually see, let's see how well the camera picks this up. You can actually see this is black and white clay, the different layers in between them. So if you want to test twist patterns or mosaic patterns or anything like that, clay is the cheapest, easiest, quickest way to do it. Hey, more bones. Horse bones everywhere. Horse parts all over the place. All the examination gloves. Apparently I'm examining something around here. Let's see. I don't like that. So much cable. Cable to make cable Damascus out of. A whole bunch of little bearded tomahawk beginnings that I started. I make these out of railroad spikes. If I can find one. One of my favorite things to do is take a railroad spike, and if you look at it, this is the head end of the railroad spike. Squish it down this way, poke a hole in it, split it open, like that one, and then put some 1075 or 1080 or 5160 or whatever I can find into here, forge weld it all together. That way you end up with a good, solid, actual, real cutting edge, good high carbon steel as a cutting edge. And then, trim off the excess, and these become basically bearded belt axes. I started doing these like 5 or 6 years ago because I'd always, the bearded axes usually start off about this big and go up to quite large, right? And I'd never seen like a belt axe size bearded axe. Now I always wanted one, and I'm inherently lazy. So, I asked all my smith friends to make them, and nobody would. As a matter of fact, here's a good piece. Like this could become. That's a little small, but if this was like an inch wide, this would be an excellent piece to make a bearded tomahawk out of. I might still use it, make it a little bit smaller, make this a little one. But I always wanted one. Asked all my smith friends to make them because I was up to my eyeballs in projects I was already making, and nobody would do it. For years and years, nobody would do them. So I finally started making them. And they usually come out to be about 4 inches-ish in length. It's a really nice, handy size axe. A lot of chopping power for such a small little tomahawk. Hey, look, knife pins. It's amazing what you find when you clean up. Been looking for that. Some threaded rod. It's that piece I showed a minute ago that I forged out of that chainsaw chain. This is a billet that is all chainsaw chain. See how well the camera, you can still see the teeth and stuff on this end. I found out that instead of this is also chainsaw chain, it's far better to forge it down into a billet, maybe even fold that billet once or twice to make sure you're missing, you don't have any voids in it before forging it into a blade. The first ones I ever did, I just took the chainsaw chain, forge welded it down, forged it right in a blade, and had all manner of huge holes and inclusions in it. It was awful. Hey, I've been looking for that too. My first ever billet of Mokume Gane that I made like 4 or 5 years ago. This is 1095 in wrought iron. One of these days, I'm going to make a gift for a friend out of this one. I've been holding on to it for years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to save it for a special project. Now I would know what I wanted. A friend of mine who's in poor health, but he has, helped me more than I could possibly imagine as far as teaching me things and helping me progress as a smith. So I'm going to make this into a gift for him. What the hell Oh, I know what this is. I know what this is. Do something with this. Hey! And I finally get my rotary tool unburied. That was the point of all it. Another guard that I forged for dagger or something. I'm going to need that when I do with the sword guard. Sword guard, dagger guard. So we're going to go there. Bullet for a warhammer. Damascus. Alright, so anyway, I hope you're not getting too bored. I'm just trying to get geared up a little bit here. And then what I'm going to do is I have this camera really kind of sucks. I'm actually using my phone. The camera on the phone's pretty decent, but it's still just a phone. So this is the Norse raven, the one you find everywhere. It was pretty much found on all the Viking war banners, especially during the era of the Great Heathen Army when they invaded England. So I'm going to carve that on this Norse-style wood hatchet that I'm forged. When I did the coyote one, or the fox face hatchet that I carved, if you saw that on Facebook, if not, I did one of these just like this and carved a fox face on it for a friend. For her to give to someone else as a Christmas gift. Christmas, Yule, Hanukkah, whatever it was. It was right around that period of time. Anyway, so I forged this at the same time because if you're going to forge one axe, it's very, almost no more trouble to forge two at the same time. So while one billet's in the forge, you pull out another one and do the same operation on it, throw that one back in the forge, grab the other one, do the same operation on it. So this one is going to get the Norse Raven on this side, then I'm going to have to duplicate it on that side. And then today I'll be making a handle for this. I'm not going to do the handle on camera. Let's see if I can find my stock. I've got a huge chunk of hickory that I'm going to carve a handle out for this. And that's going to get handled, get another finished sanding coat going, and then it will be ready. This one will be for sale, by the way, in case any of you might be interested. This does not have a home yet. Let's see here. I need to find all of my carving tools for today, which I have a bad habit of throwing into this magnetic dish instead of putting them back into the container they belong in. So, hey, that's the other thing I was looking for is the chuck key for my tool. Chuck key for my tool. All right. Let's see. Last time, got a small barrel for an outline, a big one. We'll start with that one. Dun, dun. Put these right here because I'm going to interchange them in and out as I go. Let's see if I still have power. Ugh, that doesn't sound healthy. Alright, I'm going to take a pause just for a moment to run back in the house for a second, and then I will turn the forge off so you guys can hear me better, and get to work carving this, and I'll explain what I'm doing step by step, stage by stage. So give me like 60 seconds, maybe 90. I'll be right back. let's see. It's weird having it quiet in here. I had to turn the radio off because I'm on Facebook. Facebook gets really upset. Wow, if I have my on for 20 minutes, I haven't actually done anything yet. Facebook gets really upset if you have copyright music in the background. They do all kinds of terrible things to you. Even though, they're playing it on the radio. Don't concern yourself with that. Facebook gets really pissy. Okay, so... Putting my glasses so I can see. Just by setting this hatchet on the table, picking it up and putting it down a few times, I managed to get some pretty good scratches on it already. Mouse turds. Mouse turds everywhere. If you haven't seen my personal Facebook status this morning, you don't even want to know my story about mouse turds. So, if I spontaneously barf while I'm working today, the reason for that being is because I found a mouse turd in my breakfast. So, whole other story. That's been a few hours ago, but I've been queasy and grossed out ever since. So, what I'm starting with today, if you haven't seen this already, this is my cheap ripoff of a Fordham tool, aka, another version of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Dremel, right? So the really expensive Dremels have like a nice motor and a flex shaft, and then round or interchangeable tools like this. So this is actually a diamond tool. A lot of these tools I'm going to use on the steel are diamond. I have stone tools as well, but I find for this type of carving the diamonds work better. It's essentially powdered diamond that's glued onto the end of here, more or less. Works pretty good. So, if you guys have any questions at any point, by all means, hit me up. And if I see it in time, they usually sit up on the screen for a few seconds here. I can scroll down. I finally get to scroll up and saw the rest of your comment. So where at in Pennsylvania is this get-together? Right, yeah, exactly. I do spend about 80% of my time looking for my tools. All right. So, I need to think about how I want to do this for a second, because this one's going to be different than the last style of art I did. The last one I did, what I did was I outlined it. If you can see, let's see, I'll use, well, I guess I'll have to show you with this. The end of this tool has got about a 90-degree shoulder on it right here, right? Going like that. So what I did with it was I'd go around the outside of the piece to give like a slant type texture going into my outside line, just to kind of relieve it from the background, and then go in and do some details on it. Because this one is essentially just a series of lines. It's not one big, geometric shape that you can outline and then work details in the center. I think I'm actually going to have to go with something a little different. Let's see what I've got here. Oh, actually, no. Another thing I could do is, because when I did the detail lines on that one, I'd use the 90-degree corner like this and go along the center of the lines. So, I'm going to try that. Let's start with that and see how it works. Let's see here. How badly can I screw this up? Let's see. I don't know how well you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Let's bring it a little closer. A little closer, yeah. No, it's yes, you are correct with the last part. It is mild steel with a hardened bit. So this has got what I got in here? 1080 high carbon steel for this. It's already been hardened and tempered, and then it's got all the rest of the axe head is mild steel. So it's the traditional way of doing them, and it ends up being a far tougher tool in the long run. And I try to make these in such a way that I fully expect my customers' great grandkids to bring this back to my great grandkid and have it sharpened. So I try to make them last as long as possible. If you make the entire head out of tool steel, even something as mild as 4140 or 1055 or something like that, an axe is essentially a mass tool, a mass weapon with a sharp edge on it. Basically, it's a hammer with a sharp edge, right? A lot of its work depends on the fact that it's heavy. Even something like this, it's only 2.5 pounds. It's the weight against the edge that does the work. So that repeated smashing of that weight into the eye area over time is going to work harden this and cause it to crack and break if it's a higher carbon steel. And even, like I said, something as mild as like 1055 or 4140 over time will crack and break around this area. The reason why a lot of modern axes and hatchets will be made completely out of tool steel is a lot of them will have steel handle and everything. It'll be 100% integral. Like if you look at I might actually have one laying around here somewhere, like the Estwing style axes, the whole thing is one steel, but you don't have an integral eye that it's being smacked against. So I prefer to make them out of mild steel with a high carbon steel bit. So there is that. This one does need a little bit of dressing up because there's a little bit of overlap here. When you go to forge weld them together, your two mild steel sides, you really want to bevel the outsides of it, the outside of the lips, so to speak, before you forge weld your end together. Otherwise, they just kind of roll over and create, little bits like this that you have to go back and grind out. So it's all forge welded together. It's just this is little overlap parts that I haven't gotten rid of yet. So saves a lot of cleanup if you do it that way, which I did not do. Oh no! A little more careful about where I'm putting my tool. Just screwed it up. You can fix it. Gotta pay more attention. Essentially what I'm doing right now is I'm just gonna go over the line and start. Essentially, how do I want to describe this? I'm just basically putting a small divot line all the way down in through the middle, just so I can see my tool path and see where I'm actually at, and then I'll go back and carve it deeper a little bit later. And any kind of little bumps and waves and stutters that I get in, I can smooth out. So the reason why, as far as my tool technique, when I go back and forth like this a little bit more, like this section right here, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know how well this will show it. This is much smoother than, say, down here, where you can see little waves and bumps where the tool kind of chatters around if I try to go steady. So even after I outline the entire thing, I'll come back in and I'll just go back and forth like this to smooth out those high spots everywhere. Doing round curves with this tool is a serious pain in the butt. Okay, check. I don't know if anybody said anything. Hey, Matt, what's happening? Sorry, it took me a few seconds to get to you. When the chat things pop up, they only stay there for like 10 seconds and then they fade out. So if I'm not looking at it, I have to go back and poke the screen and wiggle up and down and see if anybody said anything. Dun, dun. Problem with doing live streams during the daytime is most people are at work and they only have a finite amount of time for lunch. I can see by the time that I've been on how many people are at lunch and how many people are at home because the ones at lunch have all fled at this point. What is the difference between carving and engraving? Oh, the difference between carving and engraving is engraving, you're essentially using a tool called a graver that, let's say this is a very exaggerated version of a graver. What you would be doing is digging out. You'd be curling off a piece of the metal as you go through and digging out in one steady action as you take a hammer and tap along on the back of it. Now, I was actually just thinking to myself while I was working on this that I needed to forge myself some gravers and teach myself how to engrave because it would actually come out cleaner in the end. Whereas carving, in modern day, instead of sitting there trying to use a blade or anything like that, we use rotary tools. So I'm using various different diamond bits to spun at very high speed to dig a channel through here to kind of carve it all out. So that's more or less the difference between carving and engraving. Engraving, I think, actually probably ends up looking cleaner in the end. So it's on my list of things to do is to forge myself some gravers and a small. Actually, I already have a nice little, tiny little hammer that I forged a couple years ago that I can use for engraving. It's on the list. It's just, it's what I need is one more new skill to learn or one more new hobby to practice, as if I don't already have enough things to do. Man, it is hard to do tight curved lines with this tool. It is a pain in the butt. This would be an instance where doing this part of the head right here, where actually engraving it would probably be a lot simpler. Also, I think with engraving, it's actually easier to see what you're doing at any given time. Because of the nature of this tool, and because of the shadows and stuff in here as I use it, sometimes it's a little hard to see where the end of my tool is. But, mind you, these are just the rough lines. It's getting there. You're going to have to be really careful with this bit in here. I'm going to have to actually go to a smaller tool to do that, I think. Ah, the excitement. It's got to be absolutely riveting watching me do this. But this is essentially the process so far. So I'm really just kind of experimenting with this whole live streaming business. Hopefully in the near future, when I have time and resources, I'll live stream myself actually forging some pieces from beginning to end. I might do a couple of these. These actually don't take too long to do, believe it or not. So forging one of these from scratch typically takes me about an hour and a half. Almost there. With the outline part anyway. All right. Swap tools. I'm going to go for another barrel tool like the one I'm using. This one is considerably smaller. So hopefully this will get me in here to do the inner curve of the beak and the eye without screwing us up too horribly. If I didn't preface this to begin with, I am not a carver. Everything I know about carving I've probably learned in the last 2 years. I used to work with a master carver, but I was not carving. So while I was doing completely different things in the shop, those guys were making amazing artwork. So I get to learn a little bit from them, but not a whole lot. It was not my role at the time. Yeah. It often helps when changing tools to not immediately screw up what you're working on. Much better. Whew. That little bit is going to be a tad of a challenge. So what I have to try to do is I can get this in such a way that the camera can see it. Right in there is this tiny little eye that I have to do. I'm using a cone tool like this. Where the hell? Where's the eye? Like that. I don't know how well the camera is going to focus this. I could get in there with this tip. Kind of push this down right along there. The problem with it is it rotates in this direction at very high speed. So while you think you're about to carve a line, as soon as you hit the piece of steel, it will drag it off. So it's really difficult to go in a straight line using this tool, or even follow a line, because it really kind of wants to go where it wants to go. You have to work with the rotation of this tool, and it really this one likes to bite and drag off to the side really quick. So maybe I can do this, maybe I can't. Let's find out. I think I've had too much sugar this morning. I'm starting to get a little bit shaky. A little more sugar and caffeine. So, yeah, anytime you see me doing this, I'm just touching the screen to see if anybody said anything. These little chat windows live for about 10 seconds on my screen. If I'm paying attention to something else, then I don't really see it. Dun, dun, dun. Wish me luck. Well, that was less worse than I expected. Let's see. It actually did pretty decent that time. Now I just got to even out all these other funky lines I've got going on. I'm going to do that with the smaller barrel tool, which I just put down. And then I get to try and draw the same thing on the other side. Let's see. So this is the orientation, how this X sits with the handle on it, up and down. This is the top. So, oh wait, do I? Or do I have this upside down? No, that's it. So you'd be looking at it this way. So the opposite side will be like that. Oh no, it is this way. Never mind. Anywho, there's that. So exciting. Well, the stream is taking considerably longer than I expected. I've already been on for 46 minutes. Which means once I clean this up, I'm going to stop for lunch, I think. Getting there. All right. So, again, I can't see how well the camera could see that. That be it. So, I'm going to go cook myself lunch before I pass out. The next thing I'm going to do, as far as stream-wise, let's see, I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. So when I hit 3,000, I will do a live stream while I will forge a piece, which I will be to determined later. I haven't decided what I want to make yet. And then we'll have a giveaway drawing. So thanks for joining me, guys. Have fun. Matt, it's good seeing you, man. Take it easy.